What is up, guys? We're back with another F1 2021 video, and today we're going to be doing a 100% race around Monza as Lando Norris in the McLaren, and this will be on 110% AI, which is the most difficult AI available. Big thanks to EA once again for letting me play the game early and make these videos. We set the safety car to an increased amount, so if there's any opportunity for a safety car to come out in a yellow flag, it's probably going to happen. So let's see how it all plays out for the Italian Grand Prix.
Welcome one and all, and we're in for a real treat at this classic circuit here today. The crowd are ready to go, the cars are ready to go, and we're just about set for lights out. Welcome to the Italian Grand Prix. With top speeds reaching 215 miles per hour, only a few places can challenge Monza's crown as the fastest circuit in F1. Hard braking zones going into the 3 chicanes make up the majority of the 11 corners on this 3.6-mile circuit. And just in case the slipstream wasn't enough, 2 DRS zones will help encourage some closer action. Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box, and it's fantastic to have you with us here today. But I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, from the moment qualifying's over, you start to feel the adrenaline in your body build up and the buzz in your stomach as you anticipate the rundown into turn 1. It's all a bit like going into battle, and the unknown situation makes you nervous. Those pre-race nerves are a good thing. The day you don't have them means that you don't care anymore. And of course, you have to make sure that all the procedures are second nature to you so that they're not taking up too much of your capacity.
With the race minutes away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and Valtteri Bottas will line up alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Ricciardo, Verstappen, Sergio Perez, and Vettel, Stroll, Fernando Alonso, Gasly and Charles Leclerc, Sainz, Ocon, Yuki Tsunoda and Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Russell, Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin. Latifi and Lando Norris starts from the back of the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
Alrighty, we're on the grid now. As usual, we're going to be starting from the back, and rather than going for an alternate strategy, I found that the mediums are a very difficult tyre to operate for this Grand Prix at least. We're going to be dropping the fuel load as much as we can without obviously running out of fuel. But yeah, fuel is a very tricky subject on this game because it's a lot harder to manage. You don't have the engine modes to be able to save and conserve fuel and burn it when you need to. So if you're overloaded with fuel, it becomes a real pain. But if you've got no fuel and you're running out towards the end, it becomes a real worry. And for fuel consumption, this is probably one of the highest fuel consumption tracks there is. I know Australia is also another pretty high fuel consumption track.
Okay, our system checks are good. We need to stay in formation and start bringing the car up to temperature, please.
So the tyres are probably a little bit more difficult to get up to temperature, especially the harder compounds, but the softs aren't too difficult. But I think it's more of a challenge than last year's game. Anyway, we got 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And away we go for the Italian Grand Prix around the Tepala speed. 53 laps we've got to survive around here with simulation damage and simulation damage rate as well. We've made a good start. We're already up into P18, making a huge dive bomb all the way into turn 1. We're going to pull in behind Tsunoda, and we're going to try and go around the outside of Giovinazzi going onto the exit of this chicane. And we're up into P14 already, so we've made up a fair few positions within the first couple of corners of the circuit. Sainz is up next. The Ferrari isn't too quick in a straight line, especially around a very high speed track like this. And we go around the outside of the second chicane, and that's us up into P13. Once again, this is at 110 AI. It's as difficult as you can make it, and being in a midfield car, even though it's one of the best midfield cars, makes it a bit more of a challenge as to what it would be if we were in the Red Bull or the Mercedes. So this is a pretty difficult task to ask. I'm not sure how high we're going to get up the order, but we don't have much of an excuse right now because Ricciardo is currently in P1 as it seems on the little mini-map. But we'll try and get as close as we can to him. I don't think he'll stay in first place forever. But next up ahead is Tsunoda in the AlphaTauri. We'll try and make the most of it and try to slingshot past each driver by using the slipstream and DRS when it does become available. But P13 after lap 1, not a bad effort. I'm not the fastest driver, so I have to be very tactical about how I overtake these drivers and use the momentum of overtaking one driver by using DRS to try and overtake the next driver. And it's just one big massive slipstream train. Tsunoda goes defensive there. We actually tapped the back of him slightly, but I don't think we received any damage from that. He actually went really defensive, and he's going defensive again, so we're going to have to try around the outside of Lesmo 1, and we get the job done.
Nice work, that brings you up a place.
Next up is Ocon in the Alpine. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get him this lap. We're on lap 4 now, and we are approaching the back with the DRS, and it makes it so much easier now that we have the DRS available to us.
Okay, we're running low on fuel. Start lifting off the throttle a little before the braking line and letting the drag do some of the work of slowing you down. That'll help conserve the fuel you have left.
So once again, Jeff talking about the hot topic of this race in particular being the fuel. Fuel consumption is very difficult. You're going to have to learn how to start coasting, short shifting, or the above, as we make the move on Stroll onto the back of Vettel now. That was a bit of an awkward move as the two ahead of us were going side by side as well into the chicane, but we managed to sort it out eventually, and we're onto the back of the next Aston Martin. Something I wanted to bring up was I was doing a practice race, getting used to the Italy circuit with the new cars, and what I noticed is I went over the curbs in the second chicane once accidentally, and it damaged the underfloor, and Jeff came over the radio and said, "You've got some damage to the underfloor," like twice. He brought it up over the radio, and I just thought that was fantastic. So you can actually get damage from curbs if you hit them too hard, but that is with simulation damage and simulation damage rate. As we go around the outside of Leclerc into turn 1, hard braking, and we managed to get the job done. He's still there on the outside, but we squeeze him, and there's not much he can do. Opening up the ERS so that way we can get onto the back of Vettel when the next time the DRS is open, we can make the most of that. And we've caught up to the back of this train now. We're up to lap 11 now, so we've jumped a bit forward throughout the Grand Prix, but we're settling in nicely. It's not something I do too often, is race on 110 AI at 100% race distance, so it may not look like it, but I'm actually sweating.
The virtual safety car has just been deployed due to a buildup of debris on the track. Check your MFD.
So this was the result of the safety car, and yeah, that's Mick Schumacher just losing it on the straight on his own. I think he was trying to swerve to overtake and just turned too much, too fast in a straight line and lost control of his car. So bit of a bizarre one. I've seen it happen to AI cars before in the previous game, but yeah, just a really weird one again. This Grand Prix is a bit of a weird one when you see what happens later on, but anyways, we're into the pits. Daniel's actually come in ahead of us, so we're going to have to double stack. And unfortunately, I got some bad news, guys, and that is that double stacking is still very slow in the game, and he's in fact getting a front wing change as well. And as you can see, there's an unnecessary hold there between the double stacking. So unfortunately, not much of a difference between the last game and the current generation of game. But yeah, something left to be desired there. One thing I do notice is the animation with driving into the pits and coming out of the pits is a lot smoother than it was last year. So there is some positives, but yeah, we lost a lot of time there. Back into P17 after all that. I feel a little bit hard done by it that I made up all that progress and to be reset back to P17. It's a bit of a shame. We've rejoined the back of the safety car, but we're going to jump in the pits again. Thanks, Jeff. But anyways, as I was saying, we're coming into the pits again, and that is to change back onto the soft tires because I could not get the medium tires to work at all. I'm not sure if it was the temperature range, but I was much quicker on the soft tires in race pace comparison to the AI than I was if we were both on mediums. So for me to be on the mediums up against them on the softs, I was just going to stay at the back and there was not much I was going to be able to do. So
the track is clear. Green flag.
We're here for the restart now. We're all over the back of Giovinazzi. We're going to try and overtake him straight away. We've got a pretty good run on him at the restart here. And we're going to dive bomb Latifi as well. Mazepin, Russell, Tsunoda. almost that we're going to get him. Yes, we are into turn 1. Going to go around the outside of turn 2. And that is the job done. We're going to use a bit of overtake button to make sure that we hold the position. And he does eventually yield around the outside as he's forced to go the long way around. So yeah, my thinking was go back on the softs while I can without losing really any positions. And that way, if we have enough tires, I'm not sure if we do have enough tires, but we can go into another set of softs towards the end of the race. And hopefully we don't have to use the medium tires at all. That's the plan, since we already done a lap on the mediums under the safety car condition. But we're all over the back of Science now. It's a massive slipstream train. I don't think DRS has been enabled yet, so we're going to have to do him without it. It's going to be a drag race into turn 1, and we do get the job done, in fact. A bit surprised to see Perez down in P12. Usually I think of him being a bit higher up the order. Ocon and Stroll going side by side, big squabble, and I think Leclerc and Ricciardo also going side by side. So a lot of moves between the AI, and it's good racing, good to see. Very entertaining as a person playing the game, but hopefully it's also entertaining you watching the video at home. We got Ocon and Stroll going side by side into the second chicane. You got to be careful for these curbs as well. Not only damage, but they do seem to launch you more so than last year's game. I find that they're a bit more savage and can just tend to lift the car up in the air, and obviously you can't steer at all when your car's in the air. But yeah, since I haven't mentioned it already, the reason why I've underfielded the car so much is anticipation for safety cars. I plan for hopefully a few more safety cars because I'm still at negative 1.7 laps of fuel. So if it's green running towards the end, we're going to be in massive trouble. But luckily enough for us, Carlos Sainz is out the race. Is that going to trigger a safety car? That is the big question. Nothing. Still nothing. I honestly thought due to the increased likelihood of the safety car that we changed in the settings, there would be a safety car, but nothing so far. And Stroll is going to make the move on us into turn 1 here, but we go defensive, and I keep him at bay for now. And this is where I was considering, should I let Stroll pass and then get into his slipstream and use his DRS to conserve a bit of fuel? There goes Sainz's beached car on the side there. Still haven't retrieved his car, and it's still yellow flag, so I'm not sure what the flag marshals are doing. They should obviously get rid of the car and give me a free safety car so that I can save fuel. A bit biased there, but we're going to have to deal with the situation at hand. We're going to let Stroll go by deliberately. He probably would have got past anyways, but the plan was to use DRS on this straight. He overtook on the straight before where there was no DRS, so we go straight back past him. He actually moved a bit defensively pretty late there, so I had to be alert. It's not a street circuit, but you still have to be alert, as Jolyon Palmer would say. Next up is Leclerc. I was trying to use Stroll as a slingshot to try and get closer to Leclerc within the DRS, so we set a purple sector, and it's just enough to get us within DRS range of the Ferrari ahead. We're coming on to lap 20 now. This race is going by really quickly.
Gap to teammate ahead is 2.0 seconds.
So apparently Ricciardo is only 2 seconds ahead, which is surprising because we made up a heck of a lot of ground since... and oh my god, that's actually Ricciardo off there. Speak of him. He's just lost it on his own, spun through a scary chicane, and that's our teammate out of the race. He was originally leading the race, and...
Drop your speed, our delta is too low and we risk a penalty. Slow your pace immediately.
So yeah, what a turn of fortune for our teammate. Just absolutely unlucky coming from the lead of the race to out of the race.
Daniel's race is over, he's dropped out.
Okay guys, this is where things start to get a bit weird. We've passed the safety car. It's told us to overtake the safety car, and the cars in front of us have also overtaken the safety car, and we come back around to it again, and we've overtaken the safety car 2 times in a row. So it's a bit of a head scratcher. That usually doesn't happen as far as I'm aware. It's usually only 1 time that you're meant to overtake, but the cars in front overtook them as well, so I'm just going to follow them.
Information on Russell. They've got a serious car issue. It looks like they're retiring.
Russell now out of the race, which is really weird because it's under safety car conditions. So if it's a crash, it's a bit bizarre. If it's a mechanical failure, that's fair enough. But I think it might have been a crash. Things are happening weird. Looking at the mini map, now Nicholas Latifi's out of the race, and he's just crashed into the safety car. And Giovinazzi's just going to crash into the safety car as well. and Alonso's just driven into the Alfa Romeo, so I've got no clue what's happening here. This is so weird. We've got so many DNFs now, and they've just completely ignored the safety car and just tried to drive through it. This race honestly gives me some Hockenheim vibes.
Some information on Alonso. It looks like the problem is terminal. They're retiring the car.
Alonso out of the race. We just talked about him, that he was just driving into the Alfa Romeo.
In this lap, safety car in this lap. Let's
What?
make sure those tyres are up to temperature, and remember there is no overtaking until the timing line. Stay in
I'm
position,
not ready.
green flags.
The safety car's so ahead.
Available on the MFD.
I'm not ready for a new strategy.
If they have an issue
Jeff,
with their car, they're going to be slow.
why didn't you tell me this earlier?
Okay, the incident has been cleared. Let's get back up to racing speed.
I honestly don't know what to expect now from this Italian Grand Prix. We're on lap 24. We're only like halfway through the race, and it's already thrown this at us.
Increasing our gap on the car behind by around a second a lap.
So, P7 after all that, I'll definitely take it, but we've been left behind by the safety car at the start of the restart, and we've lost, I think it was like 5 seconds. So we have to catch up 5 seconds now to Leclerc and Ocon. But yeah, we've lost so much time just not being able to start when everyone else started, when the flags went green. Raikkonen letting us by. That's one thing that is really positive about this game. I have not been held up by a single driver once during blue flag situations. And when I've been doing hot laps in qualifying, I haven't been held up at all by an AI car. And Leclerc and Ocon going side by side into turn 1. Looks like Leclerc is going to get the best of that battle. And we're all over the back of them now. So a bit of battling never hurts us to be able to catch up to the cars in head as they lose time. Ocon goes defensive. We're going to go around the outside of a Scary chicane. We get the move done before we start turning in for the left-hander. And that is job done. Next up is Leclerc, less than a second ahead. Lap 29, we're all over the back of him. P5 seems up for grabs in this Grand Prix. I'm not sure about Gasly as he's 7 seconds ahead. But we'll see what we can make of it.
You're catching the car ahead by around 5/10 a lap.
Once again, the Ferrari is basically a sitting duck on the straights. McLaren is probably one of the fastest on the straights. I know when doing one-shot qualifying, Ricciardo or Norris always seems to be the first one in front approaching turn 1 just due to the straight line speed of the car. But that's just my logic, believing that they probably got the fastest car in a straight line or one of the fastest.
Coming at the end of this lap.
The front runners have already made their pit stop, so we actually temporarily were leading the race for a lap or two. And yeah, coming at the pits now for mediums. Once again, mediums are not the strong tyre of choice for us, so this may be a bit of a struggle for us. We're just going to try and at least not lose any positions. We might lose the position coming out of the pits though, because Gasly and Leclerc and Vettel would have all got the undercut on us, being able to pit a lap earlier or two. And I think we're actually going to come out ahead of Leclerc, so we're kind of in no man's land about where we started. But Vettel has made the overtake on Leclerc. Vettel seems to be having some decent speed. We weren't really closing the gap on Gasly, so what I thought was I might let Vettel through here, and seeing as we still got half a lap of fuel that we need to recover, I'll tuck in his slipstream and DRS and try to use his momentum to catch up to Gasly if he's fast enough to close that gap down. But it's already lap 35, so we're running out of time to make an impact on the top 4 cars. I'm not sure if it's going to be a viable thing that we can do towards the end of the race. And as you can see, the gap to Gasly hasn't really come down at all, so we decided that we're going to overtake Vettel again. We still haven't really saved enough fuel. We're up to lap 40 already now, so there was a period of time where not much happened. We just stayed behind Vettel, and unfortunately he wasn't closing the gap enough to make it worthwhile staying behind. But he's quick enough to keep up with us, and as you can see, he's going to overtake us going into turn 1 now. So rather than fighting it and using the overtake button, I'm just going to let him through here, and we'll try and overtake him closer towards the end of the race where he can't retaliate and overtake us back. That is the plan, and we just need to save as much fuel as possible. But it's lap 51 now. We've only got 3 laps to go, including this one. And I think I may have made a mistake. While I was trying to save fuel, I think I let Vettel get just a bit too far away. He got out of the DRS zone a few laps before this, and we've only just managed to get back into the DRS, but we're under pressure here because we got Leclerc right behind us, and still not being able to make that much of an impact to get close enough to Vettel to actually overtake him. We can stay within the DRS, but at the moment he has enough pace to keep that gap where it is. And fuel's going to be tight towards the end. The reason why I didn't go into the soft tires was because I wasn't sure if they would put me on a really worn set of tires that wouldn't make it to the end, as there were no new sets of tires left. But we're going to use the broadcast view to finish off this race, as we got a fight for 5th place, the 3 of us, being Vettel, Lando Norris, and Leclerc, all well within contention here. We need to try and get as close as possible to be able to make the most of the overtaking opportunities around the track. We only got 1 more DRS straight to use, so it's going to be very difficult. The tires are feeling pretty worn at this point, and we still need to save 0.02 of a lap of fuel to be able to make it to the end, because we can't just put it into lean fuel mix going through the corners. We actually have to change our driving style to be able to save that fuel. And we're within range to get into the DRS of Sebastian Vettel, but as you can see, we are just not close enough, and we don't have enough battery to mount an attack on Vettel, which is going to leave us vulnerable to Leclerc as we go through the final chicane of the circuit, which is Sky Chicane, almost losing the back end, drifting it sideways through there. That's going to give Leclerc an opportunity going into the final corner of Parabolica. Is he going to be close enough? No, he's not, and we're just out of reach of Vettel as well to make an overtaking lunge up the inside. So Vettel is going to keep 5th place. We're going to come home in 6th place, and Leclerc is going to wrap up the top 7. And wow, what an entertaining race that was. That was a bit of a weird one, but as you can see, Leclerc just storms past there. I guess he had way more fuel than Vettel and I at the end. We get driver of the day, and we make it home on fuel.
Use of the clear air today then, and didn't allow anyone to exploit the slipstream behind them. What a great win here at Monza. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
A reliable car, that was the most important factor here. This was a real battle of attrition, and you could tell those at the front were trying to find a balance between running their outright pace and taking care of the car to reach the end.
After an excellent performance at the Grand Prix, I'm sure there'll be plenty of celebrations tonight amongst the Mercedes team, and they certainly deserve it. Let's focus on the driver of the day. Anthony Davidson, who do you pick?
I think for driver of the day, I'd probably pick Lando Norris. He lived up to every inch of his reputation today, and I think he'll be going home, quite rightly, a bit proud of himself.
Well, Ant, an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
So there you have it, guys. Hamilton wins the race ahead of Verstappen, and we come home in 6th place. I really enjoyed that one. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed it. And I just, you know, even though it was a bit of a weird one, it made it more entertaining, I feel. Just having that unpredictability with them crashing into the safety car. Having so many DNFs was certainly different from a normal race. But in the end, we get home on fuel. I think we had 0.01 laps of fuel left to make it across the line. But that is going to wrap it up for this race. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you all on a brand new one.